All right, hello to each and every one of you. You are here with me, Jermaine Jackson, on the New Beginnings podcast. Don't forget you can follow, like, subscribe to the New Beginnings podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you stream and get your podcast. Please look up the New Beginnings podcast with Jane Jackson. We are here for another session of the celebration of conversation. Some of you may ask, what is the celebration of conversation? It's me and the guests having a conversation about them, people that I think you should know. It's amazing we go through our everyday lives, people that we went to high school with, college, people we've met, people we've known that's our next door neighbor, but maybe we don't know them as well as we think we do. Or maybe there's something fascinating about their lives, something we can learn and embrace and get from them, and a simple conversation could bring all of that out. So I like to bring guests on here just to have a conversation so that we can get to know people and what they're doing, not only in their personal lives, but in their community, how they've impacted the world, how they've impacted the city. You could have somebody right in your neighborhood that could be doing some great things, and we won't know anything about it because what? We won't have a conversation. So that is simply what the celebration of conversation is about. And on today, my special guest is a young lady that I met on the grounds of Blackburn College. Shouts out to the BC Beavers. We graduated together, did a multicultural expressions club together. Someone that I was able to talk to many times when I linked back up with some of my friends from Blackburn. At times when I was going through personal struggles, trying to figure life out, it was people like Gloria, Fua, and different ones that I would have conversations with. And maybe they didn't know. They were helping me through things that I was personally dealing with when I felt like I didn't have anybody else to talk to. So I'm forever grateful. That's why I said conversation is so important. Sometimes we don't give people their flowers and acknowledgments when they could have helped us through a very difficult time in life and they didn't even know us. So even though we were all young, early 20s, trying to figure so many things out, it was sisters like her that just from a simple conversation, just being there for us. I think one of the best things that I can remind that you ever did for me was when you came to my senior seminar and sat in on it, asked a couple of questions, but I needed that support from a familiar face because that was a very stressful time for me trying to graduate and get out of college. But having Gloria there meant a lot because she said she listened, she supported me, she asked me questions that pertained to my presentation that were able for me to answer. I did pass in seminar, I got my degree. So that was important. And that for me, that was a stressful time because being a biology major, that was not an easy major. And I was, doing my best to get out of there in 4 years and I was able to do it. So that's just one of the things that I can think back almost 20 years back to where you were there for me when I needed someone the most. And I thank you for that. So at this time, I would like to present to some and introduce to other Miss Gloria Mullins. Thank you, Gloria, for being a part of the podcast.
Thank you, Jermaine, for having me here today. I just want to say publicly that I'm just so proud of you for the work that you're doing. And it was a blessing meeting you back in 2001, 20 something years ago almost, right?
Absolutely. And thank you for that. And so now that I've talked a little bit about you, and I still believe you are the great person that you were back when we were in college. But like you said, it's almost 20 some years ago. So now I just want to ask you first thing on the table as we introduce you to all of our listeners and those that will chime into the podcast. Who is Gloria Mullins? Like, where were you raised? Who are your people? What was your upbringing like? So before we really dive into your life, let's just take it back. Like, who is Gloria Mullins?
So I am the daughter of Barbara Mullins and Philip Freeman. I am a descendant of the people of Sierra Leone, specifically the Mende tribe. I am an African American woman. I am voluptuous. I'm spirited. I'm caring. I'm a creative soul, a former granddaughter, a sister, a niece, a cousin, and a friend. That's who Gloria Mullins is in a nutshell, pretty much.
Nah, wait a minute. You hit some some big stuff right there. That if I could just dive in a little bit,
Okay.
a descendant of Sierra Leone. When I heard that,
Hmm.
I had the privilege when I used to work for the state of Illinois of working
Hmm.
with a gentleman from Sierra Leone, and many of us as African Americans, we don't know who we are descendants of. We know who our mommy is, daddy is, cousins. We from the backwoods of Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama. We go that far, and that's it. Why is it important to you to mention and to know that you are a descendant of Sierra Leone?
Oh my goodness. It's part of my identity. I felt as though my soul called out for me to reach out to I believe I used African DNA research group to take the test, to order it. And it was just something deep within my soul that I knew I had it to do so I can understand where I was going in life, right? Knowing the history. And then as I continue to move forward as a woman, as part of my identity, I needed to know specifically where in the motherland were my descendants from. And it's a proud moment to to get that information and learn about that. So yeah, yeah.
Well,
Uh,
I absolutely agree with you. Listening to this, I don't know who my descendants are. I do have a goal to find that out. Where are my origins from, and all of that stuff,
yeah.
because it's important for us to know our history, where we
Mhm,
come from, where who we were associated with, and a lot of time that get lost in translation amongst us as African Americans. I think that's very important. So thank you for sharing that, and I hope those that are listening will whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever your cultural diversity is, that you will find out who you are, because it can help you identify, help you close some chapters and answer different questions that you have in your life, that you can understand those things. So that was just one of the pertinent points that I heard. I'm like, wait a minute, now I got to ask a little bit more about
mhm.
this, because most people can't tell you that. So definitely dope. Now, one of the fastest things about you, Gloria, is that you have your PhD, which is I think is an amazing accomplishment. Take us through your educational journey. What motivated you to go all the way to the grounds and get a PhD? Because I don't think something like that is easy. I believe it takes a lot of time studying. I know it costs, because college is enough
Mhm.
on its own, but to continue furthering your education, what was your educational journey that led you all the way up to getting your PhD?
So, after receiving my master's in 2010, I told myself that I was finished with school, that I'm not going back. But I found myself at a place where I was ending a relationship, and I decided I needed to focus, on something different, something more purposeful. And at the time, I didn't even know that I was searching for myself, right? I needed to do something. And instead of sitting with the pain, I decided to just go after something that I said I would never do again as a way to heal. Don't know if that was the best way, probably wasn't. But the other piece of that was um, I was interested in this topic called the digital divide. So through my travels and going through stores, I would see these kiosks everywhere. Like people were purchasing tickets and they were, checking out at grocery stores with these machines. And I said, wow, the world is changing. And so, I definitely wanted to be part of the solution and helping everyday people understand the importance of using technology and how it could help you in your personal and professional life. So, you know, the journey was me saying I'd never do it, and then having this moment where, you know what, I need to push myself. I need to get through this pain. And so let me focus on, you know, something that can serve, humanity. And I went for it. It was not easy. It was a spiritual journey. I could not have done it without the divine. And so, absolutely, great decision. Yep.
So, what exactly is your doctor, your PhD? What is it in exactly?
So it's in community psychology. So instead of
Okay.
focusing on the individual person, you're really focusing on spaces and places. I like to say it's a continuation of, the civil rights work, right, and equality and all of those things in a nutshell. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay. And as we talk about that with that inequality community, another thing about you is that, and I hope you can tie this in, you are a published author.
Hmm.
You've written some things. I have read one of your books. Excellent book. For me, going to school with you and being able to read that book, I got to know more about you, learn more about you. And my question is, what made you fall in love with writing,
Wow.
or why did you fall in love with writing?
Yeah. So as a young girl, my mother would encourage me to write when I needed to express myself. And I would always keep a journal. And so I think it was 1992. You may be familiar with the movie The Bodyguard with
Hmm.
Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston. And as a young girl, 10 to 11 years old, seeing this Black woman who looked like me on screen, I was just I was amazed. She was wonderful. And when the movie was over, I did not want it to be over. So I went and got a notebook and I just started writing. Things came out of me that I had no idea was inside of me because I wanted the movie to continue. I didn't want it to be over. And so I knew at that moment that there was something special with writing. There was that light bulb went off and I was gone with writing. And so throughout my life, I would continue to keep my journal. And so for my 26th birthday, I had my journal and I said, well, let me do something a little bit provocative. I took my journal. So my
Hmm.
first book is literally my journal, self published 26 raw.
Oh.
It's my journal. So I went through the process of just understanding what does it take to self-publish, and I did it. It was a gift to myself creatively, and again, during a time where life was a little challenging, just getting out of college, having my first real job, working in government, trying to understand my identity. Work is just like, it's great, but it's public service. And so I would write. And so I literally gifted myself with the process of self publishing my journal. And then I said, well, you know what? Let me make this into a business. Let me help other people understand the process of self-publishing so they can get their
Hmm.
own story out there. So no one else has to tell your story. You can tell your story and just, be the owner of what you want to be shared with the world. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And so, okay, it's more I want to ask with that. Your journal. So your book
Mhm.
was your journals.
Yep.
I know a lot of people that journal. Um, I don't tend to journal. I need to more. What is it that journaling does for a person? I've heard people tell people that gone through stuff, different experiences. You should journal. You should write. What is it about the journal? Is it a release? Is it about putting your ideas down? Can you just talk a little bit more about that, like the purpose behind journaling? And is it healing? Is it self-help? Does it help you to process and understand? Could you ever go back through your journal maybe some years back and see, okay, I was journaling this, now I'm journaling this, so I can see my path, how I've grown, how I've developed. What can you give to the people out there to help them understand why it's so impactful to journal?
So for me, it's very therapeutic. And you might not believe this, but there is a point in time where I had a hard time communicating, and I would suppress what I I'd be feeling. And it took me a long time to unpack that, right? Stuff that I'm still working on today in therapy. And so for me, taking that pen and literally writing out how I'm feeling is everything that you said. I'm unpacking it. I am letting go of things. I am releasing. And that right there is just so liberating. And so that's why I do it. I look at my journal now, and some things I say, "Oh my goodness, you said that," and it is what it is. Me in my 20s versus now. Oh my goodness, 20 years later. Like, I did my first book in 2010, and so I still do it. It's my process for writing. I always start with a notebook um, until the piece is done, right? And so, yeah, it's definitely self care and therapeutic for me to do that writing.
So
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, I know we got these, but My Awakening at 26.
Mhm.
Then we have Goodbye Late 20s. I know that's another one of your books. And then there's another, I believe, third one of God and Gloria, A Walk in Spirituality.
Yeah.
So these other two literary works, if you could just give us just a little bit of insight into what inspired you to write these books as well.
So for Goodbye Late 20s, it's a girl from Chicago just documenting life as it happens, right? My personal relationships, professional relationships. And again, maybe shocking, but I have not always been the person to just be so open and share and speak. And so Goodbye Late 20s is really about me just putting my heart out there with, being in love, working, making decisions, getting into my caregiving. And then God and Gloria, a walk in spirituality, was really about me asking this question of, what do I know? Like, who am I? And what do you really know? Because I don't know it all. And so what came out of that are these like 10 lessons which I decided to write on, about being a caregiver, loving yourself and growing and all those things. And so I wanted to share that with other young women who were just starting their careers and maybe grappling with what's my purpose, who am I, and just letting them know that, hey, no one has it all figured out, but here's a tool. This may help you along the way.
Wonderful. Thank you. And the next one, as we continue, thank you for everything that you shared about you being an author and your literary works. You said that you have a company to help people that want to self-publish. I've talked to a few people. As you know, I've got a couple books out there, and I want y'all, as y'all hear me talking about this with Gloria, please go get her books. Told y'all the titles. They're right there on Amazon. It ain't hard to find. Put her name in, and her books come up. So I've read the one, Goodbye Late 20s, like I said, to go to school with this person, but to read that book and learn about that section of her life. Great book. Really enjoyed it. I know people that want to write books, and one of their biggest thing is, do I go with a publishing company? Do I self-publish? How do I do? A lot of people want to self-publish, but they're timid. They don't understand it. And why was that important for you to establish that for those that want to have books published, journals, poetry, whatever it is, whatever literary piece they want to have published? Why did you decide that, okay, was it because I've done it so I can show somebody else it can be done? Or is it more of, I just want people to know that there's assistance out there. You don't have to be alone when you want to express what you've written to the world.
Yeah, so I wanted to show people what the process is and let them know, okay, you want a literary agent, you are going to have to go out there and do the work and find someone who will accept you as a client. Or you could do it on your own, follow these, 5 steps, and you will obtain or keep, all the money from the proceeds of the book. And you can kind of, navigate your own journey and not have to worry about someone taking a percentage of your earnings. And so I really just wanted to educate people on, this is how you self publish a book. Like, it can be done. Get a budget,
Mm-hmm.
sit down, focus. These are the areas, and get it done. Now, if there's a literary agent or, you know, a publishing company who approaches you, that's fabulous. That's wonderful. But 9 times out of 10, most people they self-publish, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. So I wanted to educate the people and just show them that you can do it. Like, it's possible. Remove the barriers. Yeah.
Absolutely. My two books I self-published. Once I did it the first time, someone helped walk me through it. Then I did the second one on my own. It's not
Yeah.
a tough process, like you said. If you sit, can focus, take that time. Very cost effective. Is not as expensive as you would think it is, and you can definitely do it. And before we switch gears, as a published author, um, you got some people that may write because they're looking for their big break. They're looking to make a certain amount off of it. With your books that you have written, and you may have some coming down the road, what is your goal? Is it to help someone, to inspire someone? Is it just to someone could be thinking like you think, and you want to put your material out there, someone can identify with that person that you are, where you were at that time in your life? When you put your books out, what was your purpose behind it as you published them?
So the biggest piece is sharing my story. I wanted people to know that this girl from the west side of Chicago, look how she turned out. I wanted to inspire, you know, the people from my community that
Hmm.
you can make it, you know, and ultimately it's about owning my story. Like, that's the biggest piece. And sharing what I've learned, my challenges. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, you know. And so I wanted to be vulnerable in a way where others could see that, be inspired, and should they choose to do the same thing, to do such. And so writing is not, you can't be a punk being a writer. It's not the
Very
most
true. Very
easiest
true.
thing, right? And so depending on, why you're doing it, you have to understand your why. And for me, I'm creative. I felt as though it's a gift because it's not something that everybody feels comfortable doing. So I definitely feel like sharing my life is, that's something precious, and I'm sharing it with the world. So yeah.
Thank you once again for sharing your life, your story with us. This young woman, I'm still gonna call you young, from the West Side, has her
Absolutely.
PhD. This young woman from the West Side is a published author. Has also set up a self-publishing business, teach others how to self-publish. And let's continue to talk about
Yeah.
this young woman from the West Side. Also, um, your professional career. I want to know, what is a program manager and what is Mullins Care Solutions? Because you talked about being a caregiver, and people are caregivers. My mom was a RN, all that stuff through life. A lot of family members in that. When I worked for the state, I was a
Mhm.
mental health technician, so I got to work in that field for a little bit of time. But you have Mullins Care Solutions, so not only you a caregiver, you've established a business around caregiving. So as I was just, doing my research, like do research on my guests to the best of my ability,
Mhm.
and I'm looking at all of this, I'm like, yo, this college friend of mine, this young woman from the West Side, she different. She got a lot going on. So just talk about Mullins Care Salute, any other professional things? And I know, I think recently you're serving as a program manager. I hope I'm not mistaken. So I hope everybody's stuff is up to date when I'm researching. So if you could just please speak to your wonderful professional career, because I'm very intrigued, and I definitely want others to hear about the young lady from the West Side and all of her accomplishments.
Sure. So I've spent the last 19 years working in public service at a federal level for the Department of Commerce, working with the Census Bureau. I've spent some time in Cook County government in the urban planning department. And so I currently work for a school district, and I'm so fortunate to work as a family and community engagement specialist. And so while the children are going to school to learn, I get to maintain a space called Parent University, and it's for parents. So we have workshops, we have information, and parents can come in and take advantage of this information. And they can also work on their leadership skills, and they can just stay connected with everything that's going on. In the community. And so I'm just super thrilled that I get to work with adults in that capacity to help them support their children's academic endeavors. And so that's my 9 to 5. So that's what I do, work for the district. I've been in the role for about April will be 4 years. So Mullins Care Solutions, it's a business that I started probably back in 2018. I became a caregiver for my grandparents, and they ended up going to the emergency room a lot, and they would
Hmm.
defer to me for filling out that intake form as to why they're there. And sometimes they could answer the questions and sometimes they couldn't. So I knew that there was something going on, and I began to just kind of be mindful of their responses. So I would pull out my notebook and keep track of what their responses were to these questions. And so as I began to do my research on, just the emergency room and, areas of concern, I found out that 250,000 people die annually because of medical errors in their charts. And so I said, wait a minute, this is a real problem. And so what we do at Mullins Care Solutions is we make sure that you have access to your medical information at all times. So it's in a card, it's in the notebook. So you go to the ER, you get admitted. They're going to ask you the same set of questions from when you go to the ER, you get admitted, you have to go see the specialist. And so we're really about preparing and educating people so that when you have that medical emergency, and it's ill, right? Emergencies happen, you need to be prepared. And so I knew that there was a business opportunity, and it came from me being a caregiver. And so I say it's divine because God put that in me. I didn't, that was God. And so I want to give credit and say that. And so that gift came to me from being a caregiver for my grandparents. And it's a blessing because it's help people. And so that's Mullins Care Solutions. It's a gift. And so I'm looking to disrupt the emergency room. I want to really
Mm,
help people be prepared. You wouldn't go to the airport without your confirmation number. Why are people going to the ER and not having their medical history? And then you don't feel
right.
good and you can't comprehend or communicate. Let's just get you prepared and be ready with a card or a health tracking notebook, and you share that information with your family, and you get out, and go back home safely. So yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that, especially about the Mullins Care Solutions, because that is something that is definitely needed. Lord knows I've been to the emergency room, urgent care, and had
Mm.
kids go there, and when you ain't got your stuff together, it makes it a much longer process. So that's a needed business venture, and thank you for that. But as we talk about your professional career, I want to go back to the Parent University.
Mm.
Me being a part of PTSO for my kids' school, we have a parent university at their school. Thank you, thank you. I'm trying to stay with it, boy. It's something else to have to work with the school district. It is something being the advocate for children.
Mm,
I've always advocated for my own children, but I'm learning to see the bigger picture that all kids don't have parents that advocate, but
mm,
they still need someone to be a voice for them and their concerns. So that could be a whole nother conversation. But in the parent university, I'm
yeah.
very I know some of the being on the PTSO, going to school board meetings. I've even had one of the administrators joke. We were talking about FAFSA and get kids for college. I got two kids on the way to school once
Mhm,
they graduate, and they were trying to. I was in a meeting telling other parents, "Got to do this. Got to fill it out this way." Hey, Mr. Jackson, you ought to come to Parent University and teach. That's what y'all are here for. You teachers and all y'all. It ain't. And they always, why don't you come? Because all the stuff y'all presenting, I know.
mm,
So my question is, when you do the parent university, and you see the parents that are coming, and sometimes maybe the lack of knowledge
mhm.
that may be in the room, is it ever astounding to you? Maybe, and I don't want to say a parent's not involved, parents work, parents got so much going on. And I know at Parent University, there's so much vital information shared, especially like in my kids, because a lot of stuff is post secondary right now for getting kids ready for their careers, for college. And I see some parents scrambling. How do I fill out the FAFSA? How do I do a scholarship? How do I do this application? I didn't know this. Because you got some kids that are first generation college students. Their parents have no idea what this stuff is.
Yeah.
What have you seen? How do you help parents get over that hurdle? Because I've seen the frustration, seen the
Yeah.
anger. And like in my kids' school, it is a graduation requirement to do the
Mm.
FAFSA. Some parents, why do I have to do this? My kid's not going to college. No, they just going to work. I just see the implosion of it. How do you help parents that may be frustrated by it? Like, how do you help calm them down and even help them see the benefit of what's being offered at a parent university?
So, the beautiful thing is that, there's a whole counseling department, right? And so they bear the brunt of that particular task. What we try to do at Parent University is to connect with the organization that has a workshop that can walk through that parent or guardian through the steps of completing that FAFSA form. And so we also have literature. So what we try to do is connect that parent or guardian with the actual resource so that they can understand what the process entails. So I don't deal with that a lot, but connecting the parent and having that organization available to do workshops to walk through what that process is. If it's
Hmm.
a huge need, will I do a workshop myself? Of course I will do it. If the parents communicate that, absolutely. But the good thing and the biggest piece is that there's a whole counseling department, and they are really, that's their task. In addition to, yes, parent universities, there are some entities out there that are doing this work. So it's really about connecting those families with those entities until they feel comfortable enough to go ahead and complete that form, because there are some new changes as well. So they got to be ready for that. And so there's some great organizations out there preparing families for that FAFSA. So yeah.
Oh, I'm glad the ones you work with are great. I'm not gonna mention my kids' school district. I mean, I would. I don't care. They know me. They know my face. They know my voice. I'm constantly advocating. But it's nice to have counselors that are doing what they supposed to do. Can't say that's been my experience in my
Mm,
kids being in high school. I've had to chase their counselors, get them to. If you only knew what I had to go through just to get
mm,
my children's transcripts sent off to colleges they've applied to, and once their school got a post-secondary person to take care of that, the
mm.
counselors were very communicative. Then, oh, we're no longer doing this. They have a post. I'm like, wow. Y'all look for more reasons to get out of work than to do work. But I digress. We're
Okay.
not here for that. I'm gonna leave it alone.
Okay.
But I'm glad you got a great host of counselors and a department that works with you to take care of that stuff because it's needed. It's
Yeah.
absolutely needed. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll move away from that.
For sure. For sure.
Um, so the next thing that I wanted to ask you, as you just told us about your professional career, Gloria Mullins, who was your inspiration? Um, I do believe you are self motivated. I've learned
Mhm.
some things about you through this interview, your accomplishments, all the great things you've done. But I want to know, is there anyone in your life or who was in your life that inspired you to go to the level that you're at and for you to continue to move at the level or whatever else you plan to achieve in this life? Who is Gloria's mother's motivation, inspiration?
So, first and foremost, the divine God, um, but more specifically, my grandmothers, Hattie, Tony, and Lorraine Freeman. Both my grandmothers worked in healthcare. They ran households. They kept the children together. They kept us grounded. So watching these amazing African American women go through life in a way that was not always easy, but um, they did it right with challenges and all. So, I have to give a shout out to my grandparents because they were some strong women, very strong women. And so that's where my motivation really came from and the divine. So, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And how do you feel that you carry on their legacy, whether it be in the work that you do, whether it's in your personality, in the way that you treat others? My mom, RN, she was in healthcare
Mm,
my whole life, my whole 30 years that I had my mom. And I
mm,
actually was privileged to work with her at the nursing home she was at. I worked in dietary, and sometimes she would do
mm,
doubles. God, one of the hardest working people I ever known. My people worry about where'd you get your work ethic? My mother,
mm.
my
Yeah.
mother was a grinder. I never did without my mother. She worked after my dad died. I saw my mom work and provide. A lot of who I am is because of her.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed by people in healthcare, just their level of love and care, and it's just not the job; it spills into their life
Hmm.
and how they do for others. People in healthcare are just and what they have to put up with not just residents or the people in the hospital, the families, the things they have to mediate. It's
Yeah.
such a job where they are not appreciated enough. Definitely on some avenues are not even paid enough.
Yeah.
But it's just a certain type of heart you got to have to work in healthcare and a certain level of patience you definitely got to have. But hearing how your grandmothers have inspired you, how do you continue to carry on their legacy? And in what areas of your life do you see that they just looking at you like, man, Gloria, we're proud of you. You're doing what we know you would do. And how do you see that from your point of view?
Well, being a good human being, first off, and going through college, right? Getting that first degree, that was definitely for my family, right? The masters, it was for my family, it was for my ancestors, and also the PhD. So every time I obtained a degree, it was because of the ancestors, and I knew that it was important for me to get these skills so that I can have these tools so I can play in this thing called life. And
Mhm.
so I knew that both my grandmothers were proud of me. I knew my mom was proud of me, although I lost her when I was 17. Um, it's all about family. I mean, if that makes any sense. I mean, for me, grinding the way I do, having multiple ventures, and to me, education is a tool. So I've been able to leverage it in some great ways. And so, it, every aspect of my life, they were the mirrors that I used as that guidance. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that. I want to go back and mention because I think I remember I was talking about you raised your hand. You are a first generation college student.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that is so. Now, as awesome as that
Mm,
is because I know we're getting close to wrapping this interview up, this
yeah.
conversation that we're having.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing how that legacy carries on through you and just all that you've accomplished is based in the foundation of family. It's a blessing when we have strong families and our foundations are sown in our families. But
Yeah.
being a first generation college student,
Mm,
which is always a great accomplishment, what's the other side of it? Were there any nerves, any fear that I'm the first one to do this? I have no reference point
yeah.
on this process. If you could just give us a little bit into that, because we have people, like I said, I know parents where they're saying, "This is my kid," they're the first one to do this. What could you say to help somebody that's experiencing that by going through that yourself?
Oh my goodness. It was unbelievable, but I have to give credit to my high school counselor, who I still talk to this day on Saturdays. Miss Newsom.
Wow.
So going through that process, my grandmother giving me the option, her saying, "Hey, after high school, you can get a job or you can go to college." And so I wanted to escape the busyness of the city. And so my first year, I ended up at an HBCU. So again, being raised in a city, primarily on the west side of Chicago, then moving to the north side, I wanted things to slow down. And going to an HBCU in North Carolina was a way for me to slow down. So filling out paperwork, I did it. I had to listen to what the counselors were saying. They put me in workshops. The financial responsibility was on me. The scholarships that I received, the loans that I took out, it was an investment in me. There wasn't any trust funds. And so no one was coming to save Gloria. And
Hmm.
so I made the decision to get the student loans, to go out of state, to have out of state tuition. But going to Bennett my first year in HBCU, Greensboro, North Carolina, was one of the best decisions I ever made. And I transferred because of some health issues going on with my grandmother. And so I just decided to come back to Illinois to be closer. And that's how we met at Blackburn. But I navigated that entire thing because losing a parent, you're responsible. At least for me, I was responsible for those next steps. So I had to listen to what the counselors were saying. I was fortunate. I had a great counselor. And then whatever I didn't know, I had to either figure it out or follow through on information that was given to me. So that FAFSA form, filling it out on paper, then I don't think it was automated when we were in school
It
just
was
yet.
on paper.
Right. It was on paper. So you got to read, and, it was all me. And so I figured it out, and that's what you have to do in life. You figure it out, and then you meet some amazing people who can be with you on that journey. And so I was very fortunate in that way. I wouldn't change it for the world. So yeah. Hmm.
So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. That's amazing because I remember when I went. I have a daughter that's at Illinois State. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember when we sat in the room in the auditorium for her preview, and they said, "Who are all the first generation college students?" And so many kids raised their hands. Oh, they were so excited. Oh, you guys! And I was like, "That's got to be a scary experience," because nobody, like people in my family had certificates and different things, but I was the first one to go away to college. I had a
Mm.
sister that had finished her associates, but nobody in my college had ever went away. And I
Yeah.
remember the conversation I had with my mom. She sat me down. I remember I met Sam Boucher at a
Mm.
college fair. Didn't know where I was going. Rest in peace, Sam.
Yes.
He was like, "Man, you got this." I had a 3.75 GPA. He was like, "Oh yeah, you can go to college." I knew I wanted to go, but I knew
Mm-hmm.
nothing about the process. And Sam just helped me. Grateful for Black Burn and all the assistance. And my mom, we sat down and she said, "Son, I can't tell you anything about this process,
Mm.
but I'm willing to learn with you."
Oh,
And I said, "Mama, we can do it. We got it." And I love my mother for her honesty in that, because
yeah.
she just said, "I've never went down the road that you're finna go, but I pray that I've raised you and
Mm-hmm.
given you enough that you'll go out in society and be a respectable young man, a respectable human being, the way I've raised you with your values and the church stuff, that you'll go out and do fine. And we'll go through this paperwork and all this together. And I believe I've given you enough in 18 years where you
Mm.
will carry it through." And
Yeah.
I'm grateful because I finished and everything. But people always commend me for how hard I go for my children for college and stuff. As I said, I want to give them the support that I never had. I'm grateful for
Mm.
my journey and what I learned, what I matured. But if I could do it over, I wish I would have had more help because
Yeah.
it was hard at times. Like I said, being that young, you don't know how to navigate through this world. You're learning. So I try to help my kids so much every step. People are like, "Why you do so much?" Your kids, I've even had administrators at schools. "Well, you need to stop helping them so much and doing this for them because they're finna go to Okay, yes, there is a time in their life when they're going to go and be on their own. But until
Mm-hmm.
they do, I have to give them that support because
Yeah.
some people don't have a dad. Some people don't have a mom.
Yeah.
You got kids that lose their parents right when they're in that transitional stage. You said you lost your mom at 17.
Yep.
I'm in a major transition in my life. I need my parent because I'm going into another division of life that they've lived through. And I need someone to talk to help me. And thank God for the grandparents, the
Mm.
counselors, those that are there to help us navigate. But I literally had an administrator tell me that we're trying to help them be young adults. But until my child is a full adult,
Mm.
as long as God gives me breath, I am going to help them. Because some stuff in life, they don't have to experience everything. If I can give them some words of wisdom to
Yeah.
help direct them so that they don't make mistakes, so that they don't fail, I got to be there to a certain extent to help them. And I know, like, in regards to the school, some of the teachers, they get tired of me. You can get tired of me. Until my
Yeah.
child leaves high school, you gonna know me. I had one teacher tell me we had a meeting and the athletic director was talking about my son in football. He said, "Well, this conversation we had with your son, he could have done it by himself." I said, "Absolutely not, because you said some sideways stuff
Yeah.
that would have been very offensive to my son, but because his dad is here, you're not gonna say that in front of my son, because there'll come a day where he has to sit by himself with his coaches when he go to college. But while I'm here, because I know the character of who he dealing with,
Mm-hmm.
I'll never let him sit with you because he's had to experience things at that administration. One of my son's first experiences was seeing an African American male mistreated by a white male was at his school, but
Mm.
his dad was with him. And when
Okay.
he had questions, "Dad, why would a white man talk to a black man that way,
Mm.
degrading him? What if I had not been there? How does my son process that?" So
Right.
dad had to be there to teach him as a young black man how to handle something like that. "Dad, I would have went off. I would have, but this African American male handled himself with so much decorum.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even, and the white man that did it to him ain't even at the school no more." Because I
Wow.
definitely said something to the administration. But what if I had not been there to help my son understand that this the world we living in, son, and it could happen to you? How will you conduct yourself? You can't
Absolutely.
just pop off all the time. You saw another man that was disrespected, degraded for nothing that he did because a person in a position of authority thought he could talk down to him. And
Mm,
he handled himself with so much dignity. It was
mm.
beautiful. And my son needed to see that. And we went home and had a whole conversation about it. So parents, we are so important in the lives of our children. So thank
Absolutely.
you for sharing that about what you went through, because there's another side of that, being a first generation student. And thank God for that counselor that
Hmm.
was right there by your side. So shout out to all the counselors that's doing their job for
Yes,
real. Because I
absolutely.
know some that ain't. So to all y'all that's doing it, man, major love and applause to y'all. You know what I'm saying? I wish I had y'all while my kids was in high school. Be a
Mm.
better experience. So I've seen the side of bad counselors, for sure. And
Yeah.
so as we're at the end, Gloria, any final words of wisdom, anything you want to share about what you got going on? If people can get in contact with you for any assistance with your businesses, so accomplished, entrepreneur, definitely a professional, just anything you have for the audience before we go.
Well, I want to just thank you for this opportunity. And if folks want to stay connected, I'm on Instagram, Glow Entrepreneur. I'm on Facebook, Mullons Care Solutions. And remember that we all have a story. And let's think about sharing those stories. If it's platforms like these or just, I don't know, but we have to get our stories out. So I want everybody to share their stories and think about writing a book, you know, for your family. Think about that. So
Well, thank you, Gloria. And also, you're on LinkedIn too, right?
I am Gloria
Yes.
Mullins. Yes.
Yes, check her out on LinkedIn. She posts things about people that are hiring, jobs, all stuff like that. So looking for certain jobs in certain field. I think you just recently posted something about digital, about media, something recently.
Y- Yeah, it might be. Is it cinema or a
I
film? I
think
think
so.
there's a
Yeah.
South Side entity. They're actually hiring for full-time positions, part-time positions. If you find yourself at a parent university, check out the information that's there. We always have information on jobs and such. So,
And that's why
yeah.
I mentioned her LinkedIn, because when I go on there and see it, what you just shared about cinema, I shared it with a young lady that I know that's in school for that right now. She's doing cinema photography. Asked, hey, if you're looking for a job, here's a resource. Look
See,
into it. See, networking is so powerful,
it
and
is.
that was one of the essential things I learned through multicultural expressions and
Ugh.
different people that we met there. Network. It was people like Gloria that was taking advantage of a lot of those networking things. I was going to outside looking in, so I was
Mhm.
like, but now in my older life, I understand the significance of networking. Very powerful. Not even just for yourself. You can network to help others. And that's one of the biggest things I try to do with people that I know that have businesses, certain connections. I will share that information, whether on my Facebook, Instagram, my LinkedIn, or personally send it to people that can specialize. So that's kind of what I've discovered about networking. It's not just for me, but it's also for others. And I'm making a real drive to network and share things because we're
Yeah.
such a digital age now with social media, so that if it ain't for me, it could be for somebody else. Because sometimes we scroll, see stuff, oh, I ain't interested in that job, or that's not for me. But post it and share it anyway, because it can help
Mm.
somebody else. They may not know the person you know. So share it, post it, drive it so that somebody else can receive assistance. So I've learned to take me out of it and let me share this and post it because it can help somebody else that really needs it. So thank you for that. Once again, celebration of conversation, New Beginnings Podcast with Jay Jackson. Follow me, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Tune in, go to the page, subscribe, be a part of it, share it. If you think this conversation, any of my other content can help somebody else, man, spread the word. My goal with everything that I do, from the teachings I do on Tuesdays to these conversations, I want to reach one person. If
Mhm.
I can help somebody else with what I'm posting, my content, then that's the ultimate goal. That's what satisfies me. This is what I believe God has laid on my heart. And I just want to help somebody else because Lord knows there are so many people in life that has helped me. And I want to return that favor and pay it back for it to them. So thank you, Gloria. I appreciate your time. You were a wonderful guest.
Thanks for having me, Jermaine Jackson. Thank you.
Said the whole name. No relation to Michael, Tito,
No.
or the other ones, just to let y'all know. I appreciate y'all for stopping by. Celebration of conversation. Until next time, you all be blessed, and we will see you. Have a great one.
Bye.